Welcome to DME TV. This is our first episode, and this is our attempt at connecting with the audience to talk about all things healthcare, with a focus on medical device industries and the post-acute care continuum. I'm Alex Casillas, co-founder and head of operations of DME Connected.
And my name is Courtney Richards. I am the founder and CEO of DME Connected. Thank you for that introduction, Alex. Like
My
what
pleasure.
Alex mentioned, is that we wanted to be able to come together and speak to the industry as a whole about this ecosystem. And this is one of the ways that we're going to attempt to speak with everyone within the industry. So we want the show really to be focused on how we're taking care of our patients better, what is DME Connected, as well as we're going to get some guests on the show that work side by side with us on an everyday basis. So for the last 3 years, Alex and I have been building DME Connected. Once again, we don't really want to just talk about DME Connected and what it is, even though it's a great platform. We definitely want to be able to highlight some of the challenges that everyone faces within the industry. So on this show, we're going to be inviting physicians, we're going to be inviting medical suppliers that actually works with patients. We're going to be interviewing medical team members from the hospitals as well as the medical offices and speak about this unique space that we're in. As I can actually tell Alex, right? I tell him all the time that this is so unique within our space that because no time in history as we've ever seen a digital conversion that's happening in the industry. Now, Alex, you and I, we speak to medical providers on an everyday basis. And what do you see that they use a lot of right now?
Paper and pen.
Paper and pen, right?
Clipboards, post-it notes. Uh,
Yeah, and these are the things that we're saying. Hey, it's still an efficient process that's going on, and we're not going to throw anyone underneath the bus. It's just been like this forever, right? So DME Connected, we came out with the marketplace, and what it basically does is that everything that anyone within the medical team is looking for is there for them and easily accessible. So when I say everything, let me get into the details a little bit better. So, when a patient is being discharged from a hospital and they need to find detailed information on the vendor that's going to help this patient out when they get home to get their products and the services so they can help heal and have a better quality of life, there's a lot of information that they have to find out. So, what we did is that we created one centralized location where you can find out who are the vendors within the patient's area. You can find out what insurances they accept. You can find out who's the medical sales rep that's within that area that can help you facilitate an order so that patient don't have to be at home waiting for the medical equipment and services. These are just some of the things that DME Connected do. We've also partnered with some third-party companies to offer services such as telehealth. You know, a telehealth company that we've actually worked with and they do phenomenal work is Beam Health. We're going to be inviting them to be on the show as well with us in the future. We also work with RavCo Pharmacy. They do a same day prescription delivery for patients. That's right. So a patient goes home, they don't have to go to their pharmacy. You know, through RavCo, you can get access to that platform through the DME Connected Marketplace, drop a prescription, and it ends up to the patient's door. So these are just some of the great things that we're bringing to the industry and let them know how we're digitizing everything, right? So Courtney Richards is founder and CEO. So I can tell you that I've worked in the industry for 15 plus years. Within these 15 plus years, I can honestly say I've helped thousands of patients receive the medical equipment and services that they need at home. And some of the
why
products,
is innovation so important? Pardon the cutoff, but I
yeah,
want to address
hmm,
I want to address the point of
hmm,
innovation.
yes,
Innovation is one of those buzzwords where we're getting into this digital age. We're in knee deep into this digital age,
hmm,
and there's we're still light years behind of where we could be.
okay,
So right now, the talk of the town is innovation. Oh, I'm an innovator in this space, or I'm an
hmm,
innovator in that space.
okay.
So there's innovation for the sake of innovation, and then there's innovation to solve a problem. Are you solving a problem with DME Connected, or are you innovating for the sake of innovating?
So That's a twofold question. I can honestly say with that, we're solving a problem. The problem is saving time, having better efficiencies, right, and making sure that patients receive the equipment and services. I've been in too many situations where patients are have a lack of equipment because they didn't receive the proper documentation, the bottlenecks that's happening within the industry, or they just didn't get the equipment at all. So we're addressing that problem. Now, the way that we're innovating it is that we actually use our platform with artificial intelligence. So in our particular space, we're one of the very first ones to introduce our Alexa program, which is called Acacia. And instead of you going to a computer, instead of you going to Google, instead of you going to a sales rep, or even asking a coworker for information, you can actually ask Acacia. So one of the things that you're going to be able to do is you're going to ask Acacia and say, "Hey, find me an oxygen provider in this patient's zip code." And Acacia will have all the vendors that's part of our network find their information, email it to you, and then you have everything within your email that you could use to process that order. So that's where that true innovation comes in. So we tackled first the problem, then we introduced the innovation, right? And that's why it's so exciting at this particular time, because more than ever, artificial intelligence is being ingrained in our everyday life as well as the health space. And this is going to affect very much how patients receive their equipment and services, but not only that, have a better quality of life. With this aging population that's coming up amongst us, and it's here now, right? They're saying by 2035, that's right around the corner.
Yeah,
That's right around the corner. So 65 and older baby boomers they need help, right? And that's why you're seeing so many innovations going on within this space right now. Not only innovation within the medical devices, but remote patient monitoring. A lot of patients like to be at home, as you can see with the pandemic. No one
yeah,
was ready for that. Not the healthcare industry, not the vendors. Everyone had to pivot and try and find a solution how they can still continue to provide this great service to these patients. And this is some of the things that we want to be able to address on DME Connected TV, right? The
absolutely. And,
challenges.
I think it's important to stick on that point of the aging population,
Mhm.
because it is something that is being understated at the moment.
Mhm.
There's information out there, and we'll talk about the aging population in more detail after
Mhm.
Regine's recap. But
Okay.
I want to highlight that point and talk
Mhm.
about how DME Connected is addressing the aging
Okay.
population in more detail. We
Mhm.
do have Regine in the background. So
Okay.
if you want to bring her in and introduce her, let's go
Mhm.
right on ahead. And you can highlight. I'm going to drop out in the background when she comes in.
Okay.
So, feel free to have that discussion. I'm
Mhm.
interested in what she's got for us today.
Right. And before you bring it in, so what we're going to be doing on a daily basis is that we're going to have Regine come in and she's going to give us a quick minute overview of changes that's happening within the healthcare industry. Part of our show, we're also going to have HFA, which is Quan's Health, Finance, and Advice. He's also going to be a correspondent that's going to be helping us out as well too. So from time to time, we're going to have them jump in and speak a little bit more about what's going on with the industry along with our guests. So right now we have Regine, and we're going to bring her up, and she's going to go through a quick recap of everything that's going on within the industry right now.
Perfect.
Mhm. Hey, Regine.
Hey, Courtney, how are you?
I'm pretty good. So I was just telling the audience a little bit about yourself. And so, what do you have for us today? What's going on in the healthcare industry?
Man, we have a lot of really important topics to talk about. So,
Okay.
first, we're just going to get right into it. We are going straight to the federal government. They are actually
Mm,
looking to expand vaccination requirements for staff in hospitals and other
okay.
healthcare settings that receive Medicare and Medicaid funding.
Okay.
So, basically, they're just going to require the COVID 19 vaccinations for workers and requiring most employers with 100 or more employees to mandate the vaccination or implement weekly testing.
So you're
So
so you're saying if I'm taking care of any Medicare patient at all, and I have 100 or more employees, my employees have to get the vaccination.
yes, yes,
Wow.
or implement weekly testing. So I'm not
Oh,
sure how
okay.
the
Okay.
employees will feel about the weekly testing. I hear it's not
Okay.
super fun to get the Q-tip up
Okay.
your nose, but
Yeah.
it's either that or the vaccination.
And that's the only way that they can guarantee to continue to get the
Yes,
Medicare funding. Okay. Okay. That's
yes,
interesting. All right. What
yeah.
else?
And then we're gonna go into, back into the U.S. government. So huge, but they have 17B allocated for a phase 4 provider relief.
That's
So
17 B as in billion?
yes, $17
Wow.
billion will be allocated for a phase 4 provider relief. And so
Okay.
the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the HHS, is making $25.5 billion in new funding available for healthcare providers affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. So
Okay.
this funding, it critically helps healthcare providers who have endured demanding workloads and significant financial strains,
Okay.
due to the pandemic. And
Okay.
the funding will be distributed with an eye towards equity and to ensure providers who are, who serve our most vulnerable communities and make
Okay.
sure that they receive the support that they need.
Well, that's good. That's good. 17 billion. That should go a long way because I know a couple doctors' offices that I've spoken to before. The workload is demanding.
Yeah,
And sometimes they have shortage of staffing. And things are just falling apart. And
right.
that's some of the things that we see. So hopefully they get that help that can help them out. That's pretty good. What else?
Yeah, we hope so. We hope so.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
lastly,
Oh,
we are going to touch on Zol and Itamar. They are going to merge to advance link between cardiology and sleep apnea. So basically, Zol is a medical corporation, and they've signed a definitive agreement to acquire all outstanding ordinary shares of Itamar Medical for about $538 million.
wow.
So
Wow.
it's currently estimated that about 60% of cardiovascular patients, they suffer from
Mhm.
some form of sleep apnea, and the
Okay.
majority of these patients, they go undiagnosed. So
Oh.
the combination of Zol Medical and Itamar Medical will help
Mhm.
more patients receive diagnosis and treatment for sleep disordered breathing. So we look forward to helping strengthen the
Yeah.
collaboration between the worlds of cardiology and sleep medicine.
That's good news. Thank you for your quick minute. I know some
Absolutely.
representatives from Zoll, and that seems like a pretty good move. I've also sold some sleep apnea, CPAPs and BiPAPs in my past. So it seemed like they're moving in the right directions. Thank you once again, Regine.
Absolutely. Thank you
Thank you,
guys.
Regina.
All
Great
right.
job.
Appreciate it.
All right then. Bye.
Bye bye.
Hey, and Alex, like what Regine mentioned before, as you can see there, it seems like there's a lot of collaboration and acquisitions that's going on within the healthcare space. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, you can see Zoe with Itamar, so you have a vest therapy, a heart vest therapy provider working with sleep apnea. So they're just working together to make sure that they take care of patients. And that's one of the things that we want to mention throughout the show as well too. Who's merging with who, just making sure that patients know when things happen, hey, these are your proper channels of getting in contact with different people as well too. I know some of these companies, they have sales force out there in the field. They're doing a phenomenal job. I was once a sales rep in the industry as well too. Getting back to your topic of just innovation and problems that we're solving. When I was out there in the field, just hitting the pavement, seeing doctors day in and day out, it was always thoughts on how do we get better than what we're doing today, right? And we see that they have some very large EMR systems out there that's constantly doing updates. Vendors are constantly doing updates. And I think through technology, that is the only way that we're going to be able to handle and tackle this aging population. Because, like everyone else, we're forced to do more with less. And that's happening across the board. So when you want to get into the weeds and saying, okay, so what else are some innovations, right? I mentioned before about remote patient monitoring, right? So the shift in healthcare has came about where if we could be more proactive than reactive, we can start helping these patients from going back to the hospital on a regular everyday basis, right? And then with the onslaught of the pandemic, patients don't want to go to the hospital anymore. You know, some patients are like, I don't want to be in that atmosphere. I'd rather get my treatment at home. So then that opened a floodgate of telemedicine. You know, every other day there's a different telemedicine company that's just popping up and helping tackle these patients. And I think that's phenomenal because for a very long time you had patients that was in a rural area that couldn't get the services that they needed, or they was in a very underdeveloped or underserviced population where they just didn't have the means to with the transportation, right? So then with the onslaught of telemedicine is opening up to all these different patients that's going on. So what we would like to focus on is that through technology, innovation has to happen. What's the challenges that's going on within the healthcare space? So how or is the medical teams taking this? You know, how are they reacting to it? And I'm talking about the medical assistants, physical therapists, respiratory therapists, nurses. How are they reacting? Because it seems like every week, you know, leadership is coming to them and be like, "Hey, you got to learn this new program. You have to learn that new program. Or this is an update within the system." But you know what? For a very long time, we've been doing the same thing here with this phone, right? This is the key to everything. So if there's updates on your phone, then there's going to be updates within your EMR, and we just got to get used to that, right? Right now, DME Connected, we're one of many that's approaching the field. I just like to say, give us the opportunity. We're going to show you exactly what we can do, how we can help implement this within your medical practice, how it affects your day-to-day operation, how it affects the patients receiving the products and services as well too, and then also on the insurance end, how does it helps patients save some money, right? At the bottom line, you know, a lot of people are in this financial state as well too, where I may need the equipment, but I'm going to refuse it because I don't have the means to support, you know, that cost. You know, so through DME Connected, we can help shed light on how through the medical providers that's writing these orders, they can help patients save some money as well too. And how do we do that? By getting the right vendor that's appropriate for that patient. So our company model is continuing a patient's care begins with finding the right vendor. That's our company model. That's what we stand by, right? So we've built our relationships with the vendors. We've built our relationships, which is ongoing with hospitals as well as private practices. And now we want to introduce this where everyone have a say so in this ecosystem.
Now, how do you break through those silos that
Mhm.
exist? So, something that's interesting that occurs during these different periods of time. So, for example, 9/11 just passed,
Yes.
and what happened to the airline industry,
Mhm.
given that terrible time,
Mhm.
you saw a lot of mergers and acquisitions happen because of the decline in travel. Uh,
Mhm.
Flyers no longer wanted to fly anymore.
Yeah.
Just like patients no longer want to go to the hospitals because of the pandemic, this other
Yes.
terrible occurrence that's
Mhm.
going on more recently. So you saw during the time of 9/11, you saw some major companies merging. So like with the Zol acquisition and merger,
Mhm.
uh, same thing happened in the airline industry. So
Mhm.
a lot of small players got acquired by some of the bigger players,
Mhm.
and flyers needed to adjust and say, okay, I have less options.
Mhm.
I can travel now, but now I have less options to choose from. In
Yeah.
the healthcare space, we see the same thing happening.
Mhm.
How are you identifying the hurdle or addressing the hurdle of getting these smaller players and just the industry altogether to
Mhm.
adopt DME connected as a solution for them to work on? Because remember what we said in the beginning,
Mhm.
the processes that exist today are antiquated:
Yes.
paper, pencil, clipboard.
Mhm.
So I could imagine the transition in adopting new technology is going to be difficult. So
Mhm.
how are you addressing that? How are you getting in front of providers and saying, hey, this is a solution that's going to work for you, and helping them see that solution? And then the same thing for the vendors. Like, hey,
Mhm.
vendors, your access to these hospital systems is limited now.
Mhm.
You need to be on DME connected, and you need a solution that
Mhm.
helps you grow your sales, grow your reach, and scale your
Mhm.
business. How
Okay.
are you doing that and solving that hurdle?
Well, hey, that's a two-part question. So let's take, for example, the medical providers first, right? So we designed the system with the medical provider in mind. So we offer our system for free. Yes, that's free. So any medical team in any hospital, any office can go into our
Wait,
website.
wait, wait. Free for what? 14 days, and then I got to
No,
pay
no, no.
thousand
This
dollars a month or something like that.
no, 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 no. This is absolutely free forever.
Okay.
Right? So you can go onto our website, dmeconnected.com. You can click the button, sign in, right? And then just put basic information, name, phone number, email, so forth. We verify who you are, and then you get access to the system, right? So we approach the medical providers and we let them know the system is free. Second thing is ease of use. So remember, I spoke about how the adjustments for the medical teams, how are they looking at it with all this new technology? So we made it the ease of use one of our easiest points. If you can do Google, you can use our platform, right? I like to say, talk to me like I'm five. That's the same thing we did with our platform, right? You should be able to get in there, for example, you have a patient, you need oxygen therapy, you place the patient's zip code in the system, right? And what service you're looking for, and it's going to bring up all the vendors within that area. Then it's going to give you the detailed information of those vendors. Now I can get into weeds and tell you the detailed information, but actuality, what you are is that we're your digital medical suppliers list. You know, a long time ago they had a list and they said, I'm going to use this vendor today, I'm going to use that one tomorrow, and so forth. So this list has just went digital, and it's on steroids, right? So all the information that you need, unless you want to spend 3 hours calling your medical rep, Googling, asking your next door coworker on questions. Don't do that. Just go to DME Connected, right? So that's the benefits for the medical providers, anyone that's in that medical space, right? On the vendor end, what we did is that we made it so economical that even the smallest mom and pop that's right down the street from the patient can afford the service. So that's the first thing. So we have some justification in the service. Yes, we do have to make some type of money for this to continue to go on. So that's why we charge the vendors a small fee, right? And they can pay it on a monthly or they can do it on a yearly basis where they have savings. So with the vendors, it's more beneficial for you because let's say, for example, you're in a territory and your sales rep, something happens and your sales rep is no longer with you. It's going to take time for you to find a new sales rep. It's going to be some RAM time that you actually have to have for the sales rep to know these accounts and so forth and so on. DME Connected is there for the medical provider day in and day out. So it actually can act like your rep, right? And one thing I would like to say, nothing will ever replace a human being there to be able to support a medical office. But we do have this artificial intelligence platform that can help answer some of your questions and help you guide you in the way to help facilitate that order to make sure that patient is not wasting time, right? So with a vendor, you can go wide and deep within your accounts, right? Because not everyone, no matter how many accounts you have, not everyone within that office or the hospital knows your rep everywhere, right? With DME Connected, that's in there. All as well as it's 24/7. You know, reps have a personal life. They got to go home. They have a family. They're traveling. They're doing so many more other things. This is available for the medical providers all the time. So this just helped that vendor help establish their business a little bit better within the accounts, as well as it helps the rep as well. If they're not available, at least they can go to DME Connected. So that's why we even have a sales rep portal where the provider can find who's that rep within that area to help them with patients. So I hope that answers your question about the medical provider as well as the vendors that's working with these offices just to make sure that the patient is taken care of.
Absolutely. And the idea for this conversation
Mhm.
is to enlighten everyone on the different hurdles that exist within the healthcare space.
Yeah.
So, going back to that topic of the aging population, the simple breakdown is by 2030, 2035, there'll be more individuals in the US, 60, I believe it's 62 years and older,
Mhm.
than there are 18 and younger.
Mhm.
So that means there'll be more seniors in the population than there are those younger to take care of those seniors.
Yes.
So this is an exponential problem that can be created because of this
Mhm.
disparity or this ratio. One, less people in the workforce. So
Yes.
Social Security and the pay into Social Security is going to be severely diminished.
Mhm.
And then, secondly, obviously, healthcare. So
Yes.
there's going to be increases in healthcare activity just because there's an older population out there. So it's something that we really need to concern ourselves with, and it's important for the audience to understand the severity of what could be,
Mhm.
and we can take the steps now through technology, innovation, and just overall preparation going
Yeah.
into it. So that's why I asked those questions.
Yeah.
And, what you enlightened me with is
Mhm.
beautiful, and it addresses
Mhm.
at least one of the pain points or two of the pain points that exist
Mhm.
within the medical device industry and the post-acute care continuum
Yeah.
overall. And the more people that hear the message, the
Mhm.
more people can start acting and
Mhm.
taking decisive roles within this space, especially if you're in the healthcare
Yeah.
industry.
And one of the things that you did mention that's so important is that technology is how we leverage these challenges, right? As well as it has to be an even playing field so everyone within this ecosystem is addressing some of these challenges that they're having on an individual pain point level as well as a system wide system. I know sometimes it's hard to change. You've been doing this for 30, 40 years. However, right, if you know better, you'll do it better. My mother always told me that. So we always have to look at, hey, what's the innovations that's going on within that space? Who are the younger players that's coming in there? And who can you collaborate with? And that's what we want to do, as DME's connected and even as on a personal level, I know through collaboration, that's how we get ahead. So that's why we offer services and then we'll also partner with some really good companies to help address some of these situations. So thank you guys for listening to us. My name is Courtney Richards, once again, founder and CEO of DME Connected. Look forward for our next episode where we're going to be inviting some special guests and speak a little bit more about what's going on here in the industry. Don't forget to hit like, right, and follow us at DME Connected on all your social media platforms.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll be back next episode.
Thank you.